Vernomatic Productions.
Are you ready?
Live from the Metal Mayhem Studios in Rochester, New York.
We are gold. We are gold.
And heard around the world by metalheads just like you. This is Metal Mayhem ROC.
Heavy metal music.
Your weekly dose of metal music, interviews, album reviews, news, and more. Want to be part of the show? Send us a message through our website, metalmayhemroc.com, or hit us up on Facebook and Twitter. Search Metal Mayhem ROC, a proud member of the Pantheon podcast team.
It's getting nice and heavy.
Now, welcome our hosts, John the Vernomatic Verno.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to August. Glad to be back. We had a little time off. Metal Walt and I, last weekend, were up in Boston for the Metallica shows. Got 2 killer reviews up on our website, metalmayhemroc.com. Go check that out. But for right now, tonight, we're excited to have our friend Chris Grant, better known as the CRYPT, from the Metalomania YouTube channel. He's joining me and Bill the Rager as we're going to take a deep dive into another rock and roll detention episode tonight. What we're doing, we got a list of 12 killer under-the-radar bands from the 80s. Many regions are represented, including Canada, Oakland, Midwest, Florida, and even Honolulu. Yes, Hawaii metal. Can you believe it? Well, we also cover thrash bands, doom, power metal. It's a fantastic discussion with audio clips throughout. So if you like what you hear, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you're listening to the pod. Our recent episodes include Todd Howarth of Freely's Comet. Metal Walt sat down with him a couple weeks ago. Walt and I had Brian Heaton on to promote the new book, Roads to Madness, the touring history of Queensryche. And we also have our continuing History of Metal series, The History of Metal. We're up to year 1996. That's all up there on our website. While you're there, join our community by signing up for the email list. There you'll get alerts for new podcasts, YouTube interviews, alerts for our radio show on Monday nights, CDs, and concert reviews. Hey, and it even gets better. We have a merch page with tons of t-shirts, women's fitted shirts, hoodies, drinkware, stickers. And we also have an exclusive, it's not going to be there that long, a Boston Metal Mayhem Metallica shirt. They're worn at the shows, and they're going to be up there for about another week. So get yourself up to the metalmayhemroc.com website, check out the merch page, and get yourself some summer metal gear. All right, so let's get into it. Tonight's episode, 12 killer under-the-radar bands from the 80s with our guest, the CRYPT from Metalomania, and our very own Bill the Rager. I'm the Vernomatic, and this is Metal Mayhem ROC.
Ah, look, you're back in detention.
Got it.
But this time, you won't be throwing pencils up into the ceiling tiles the entire time.
Don't mess with the bull, young man. You'll get the horn.
Your proctors expect you to be on your worst behavior as they give you remedial instruction in the history of hard rock and metal.
You going to school?
Hey, settle down. Here's Vernomatic with your rock and roll detention.
So, right off the bat, you guys don't know each other. Chris, the CRYPT from Metalomania, like to introduce you to Metal Mayhem ROC's own Bill the Rager.
Bill, nice to meet you, brother. Nice to meet you, too. And thank you for having me tonight, Johnny. I appreciate it, sir.
You're welcome. So, you know what, Chris, I'm going to give you a chance to talk about your brand. It's real exciting stuff.
We are entering year 7 of Metalomania. Thank you for those of you who already know who we are. We've gone through hell and high water to be able to play music on YouTube, which is a crazy bar to get over. But basically, we interview bands from all over the world, and we've been very lucky. We've talked to Testament and Overkill, and in fact, next week we have Atrophy coming on. Everybody knows Atrophy's back together, and I got them coming on to talk about it. And I like to think that our brand is replete with crazy-ass editing is kind of what sets us apart, man. We do crazy, goofy editing over here on our show, so.
Editing is an understatement. I had a chance to be a guest on Metalomania. I mean, my man, hours and hours of editing, inserts of cool little video assets, little, jokes, this and that, top production, and tons of respect for you, bro. So again, it's Metalomania. Find it on YouTube, and we'll have all the links right down on the show notes.
Please do. Your support is what we do it for. We appreciate every one of you.
So what we're going to do tonight, like I said, we decided to go in the back of the vaults. We each combined probably have well over 120 years and counting of heavy metal experience. We all have our favorite bands. Bill and I are old buddies from the 70s, growing up in Rochester, New York. That's where I am now. Bill's down in Florida for a second stint living in Florida.
Nice. Okay.
Chris, where are you located? Where are you calling from?
I'm 20 minutes south of Washington, D.C., right in Chesapeake Beach, Maryland. Yes, indeed.
Did you grow up there? Is that where your roots were?
Maryland. I grew up in PG County, and I'm a little more into the I moved closer to a beach is all I did. But, yeah, I'm a Maryland boy through and through. Yes, sir. And so it's true then. So growing up in New York, there becomes an age where you're like, you have no choice. You have to move to Florida. It's like, it's genetic, right? It's like the calling to the South, right, brother?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It called me down.
Are you loving it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I moved from Rochester to Tampa, Florida in 1993, lived there for 10 years, did the whole, I was in a band, went to many, many shows, and then moved back to New York, and then was in a couple bands and many, many shows, and, and now here I am back in Florida, not in a band at the moment, though, but, it's all right.
I think Tampa, I think death metal, you know what I mean? So
that's what it was, pretty much,
sir.
Yes.
Awesome.
I know, I think we agreed on five bands we're going to explore. And
I made a list of 37, but yeah, 5 was, yeah.
I have 4.
You have 4. Okay, well, you know what? Let's go on 4 because we like to keep this going. So we'll go round robin. We'll start, and we're going to have Chris, our guest from Metalomania, start things off with, descending order. I don't know if you have a 1 or a 4. Whatever. We're going to share them all. Go ahead.
I didn't really put them in order so much as just to make the list. And I'm not kidding. I ended up with like a list of like 40 some odd bands and stuff. But let's open things up, I guess, with let's go with the shirt I'm wearing here for this occasion, man. I feel like Heathen was one of those bands that never reached that level that I feel like they should have, man. I just saw them about a year ago. And they're back together. They got brand new music coming out and that sort of thing. But they were a band that seemed to. Let's preface this quickly. I'm a thrash metal guy. In my DNA is thrash metal. My favorite era ever was the Bay Area explosion of thrash metal. So a lot of my friends moved out there and that kind of thing. But Heathen seemed like that band that was right on the cusp of, as they were starting to get big, is when everything started turning grunge, I guess. You know what I mean? They didn't quite hit that moment where things were, and they should have, man. They're a fantastic band. They're still a fantastic band. One of the best vocalists in the game, in my opinion, so I'll open up our list with good old Heathen, man. Fucking David. And what's funny is a really good friend of mine, Kyle Edisi, who is in a band called Invicta, is traveling with Heathen right now as their traveling guitar player. So that's pretty cool.
I'm not that familiar with Heathen. Bill, are you familiar with this band?
Yes, I definitely used to jam them back in the day.
1987's Breaking the Silence is a mandatory own for thrash metal fans, especially out there, man.
I know, and I'm remiss that I don't have it in my collection at the moment.
Fantastic release.
Well, I'll put it on my list of heavy metal homework right off the bat. I have it on there.
Yeah, Victims of Deception in 91, and also they just put out Empire of the Blind a couple of years ago. Still a great band, still out there doing it. Bill, what do you got? What's your first entry?
My first entry is Obsession. From they started in 1982, and they I guess you could consider them traditional / power metal, sort of speed metal. They weren't really thrash, but they had elements there
For sure. Great riffs.
Yeah, another band that should have been bigger than they were, but they probably just didn't have the right marketing. I remember they did have a video on MTV there, and it didn't get much coverage. But they're a killer band. They put out 3, to me, fantastic albums: an EP and 2 full lengths.
And did they have Martial Law? Was that
yes,
Obsession?
Martial Law, that was their EP. Then they had Scarred for Life was their first full length, and then Methods of Madness was the third one. And actually, their very first thing, right after they got together, they were on Metal Massacre 2. What's the name of that song?
That's right. That compilation, those compilations were amazing, by the way.
Yes, Shadows of Steel. That's a tune that was on there.
Beautiful.
Sick vocals, killer twin guitars. I would say, they weren't total shredders. They were more like the Tipton Downing type playing,
right.
I guess you could say. But
the back and forth attack.
Yes. And then Mike Viscera, the vocalist, had some sick high, he wasn't a high-pitched singer. He was more of a raspier voice, but he could hit some serious highs. I mean, he was like a siren whale.
Yeah. Great band, man. Great band.
Cool.
Well, like I said, I have 4 or 5 bands, but I got a couple from Florida, a couple from Canada, and 1 from the U.S. But let's start with my first Floridian band, if you will. Started in the early 80s. First album came out in 85.
Magical year. 85 is such a great year.
Oh, yeah. Well, the lead singer, actually, we had an interview with him last spring from his place down in Florida, and it's Nasty Savage.
Right. On my list, bro.
Dude, on my list, too.
On my list, brother.
Well, then let's get right into it. Ronnie Galletti, Nasty Savage. Unfortunately, the reoccurring theme of a lot of these bands, well, maybe the bands I brought along, is 2-3 albums, and then for some reason, like Bill said, bad management, misfortune, drug addiction, booze.
Timing.
But the first one, Nasty Savage, fucking No Sympathy, Gladiator, Fear Beyond the Vision. It goes on and on. What did you dig about the band?
Penetration Point for me was probably my favorite one. I love Nasty Savage, the debut, but Penetration Point hit right for me at that time as a teenager when I was out there, breaking all the rules that I could find and creating new rules to break. And that album is kind of a soundtrack to my life kind of a release, man. What a fantastic fucking band, dude. Yeah. Well, they're one of those bands. Again, it seems like there was so many bands that, in my opinion, were about to go next level. And then that fucking grunge thing happened, man. And, I'm on record. I know that you and me have talked about this in the past. I have a deep hatred for grunge. And it's not necessarily the music itself as much as what I feel like it did to the other music I love. You know what I mean? It kind of put a damper on all my metal at the time. But I got into Nasty Savage when I grew up with Vincent Matthews, who many may know temporarily was a dying fetus. I've known him since we've been in kindergarten and shit. And we used to trade tapes together back and forth. The Nasty Savage was one. He brought me a cassette of it once and was like, check this out. And that was the self-titled original release. But by the time I loved it, I loved Indulgence. But for whatever reason, Penetration Point, man, I still play that regularly, honestly. So
I still play all of it, but Abstract Reality is probably my favorite. Just the tunes on there are sick. The guitar work and it's like the riffage is. I would call some of their riffs are like they're mesmerizing.
I think
kind of
so.
Circular,
Fantastic, actually. Yeah.
Spiraling. They're. I don't know if that's a good description, but yeah. And then they have these killer slam parts too that are just like
they were definitely one of those early bands that were like, we're gonna put this section in here so that people beat the fuck out of each other and I always appreciated that about them.
Listeners, throughout this, you're going to hear me refer to Chris as the CRYPT. Him and his beautiful wife, Scully, run this Metalomania. How did you guys get these nicknames?
What's funny is people who are just seeing me the first time probably won't believe me here, but years back, I weighed 450 pounds. I was a big fat guy, and I had I still have a walking stick. I have knee problems and hip problems and stuff. But my friends would jokingly call me the Crip, like the cripple. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
And my daughter hated it that she always, for whatever reason, would defend me as if they were making fun of me, which of course they weren't, but it was lighthearted. But that morphed into her turning it into CRYPT, adding a T to it, and then more and more people would play like music from the Tales from the Crypt thing over my shit when I would start the show, and it kind of became the CRYPT over that. And Scully, I call Scully because we just celebrated 25 years together this week, a couple weeks ago. But when we very first got together, we both got a horrible flu for like a week, and we sat at home binging. We made literally the pillow and blanket fort out of the living room, and we watched X-Files nonstop the whole time we were sick. And by the end of it, she became Scully, and she's been Scully ever since. So. And I'm sorry for you guys that she's not here right now because she's way better looking than I am, you guys. Way better looking than me. So,
well, your second entry into your top five.
And she's yelling, by the way, that all the hair metal stuff is underappreciated. But anyway, my next band is a band I love. I love. They have a small tie-in even with the hat I'm wearing here in a little bit of a ways. But, man, I'm going to go with Chicago, Illinois' Trouble. A band that people who watch our show know kind of my backstory. We've jokingly referred to that we're going to add a show to our repertoire called my big brother's record collection, because that's kind of how I got into music. I used to break into my big brother's room and listen to his records all the time. I got into every band that way. Black Sabbath and REO Speedwagon and Fall and April Wine, all those come to mind. But one that definitely stuck out was my first ever listening to the one of two self-titled Troubles. This band has two self-titled releases, and both of them are among my favorite releases in musical history. But, man, the first time that I got my hands on a Trouble record, the doomy, they were kind of my, that real doom outside of what Black Sabbath brought me. They were kind of that doom thing that got me, and I've loved them ever since, man. Eric Wagner, bad motherfucker, so...
Choose
Bill, what do you got on your list? What's your next cut?
Next band, the Crumb Suckers, out of New York, Baldwin, New York, which is on Long Island, but they cut their teeth in the New York City hardcore and metal scene. They were considered, to me, they were a hardcore band, but they were way more metal than they were like their contemporaries. The guitar players were freaking both killer guitar players. I would say they're more from the Eddie Van Halen, Randy Rhoads school of music than, say, Johnny Ramone. Just chock full of killer guitar riffs and lead breaks all over the place. Their tunes were short and fast, but there was tons of killer guitar in there. And they put out 2 albums, Life of Dreams and Beast on My Back. Life of Dreams came out in 86, Beast on My Back 88, and they're 2 completely different records.
Right on, so true.
Yeah, I would say I like Life of Dreams a little better because that's how I got into them. But Beast on My Back is a killer record too. It's just a little different. It's weird. It's like it's not more. I would say it's more traditional, but they still are avant-garde. They definitely weren't your average band as far as how their songs go. And I would say the singer Chris Notoro's vocals were more akin to Lemmy than, say, Steve Perry.
Yeah, right on.
That's awesome. I remember when Bill, he spent some time down in Jersey, and he used to, he'd come and visit, and this was all well before file sharing or anything like that. And I remember he came back and he gave me a cassette, and it had like Mucky Pup on there, and
A Boy in a Man's World.
Yeah, a couple other of those downstate, tri-state, that kind of stuff. So great choice.
Right on. Love it.
Now,
great choice.
You said something a little while ago. I'm going to stay in Florida, and this band, even though they went on probably to achieve, I don't want to say bigger heights, but they had many chapters. Sabotage.
Nice.
They came from the swamp area, and when like I just said, they have a lot of different chapters, but the chapter that really we got into was right from the beginning, CRYPT. This was, we got Sirens. We saw that Sirens tour. I never realized that they recorded all of Sirens and all of Dungeons Are Calling at the same time.
Oh, I didn't know that actually either.
Yep.
Yeah, all in one day.
Awesome.
They recorded those. And then Dungeons Are Calling is the follow-up 4 or 5 song EP.
And they're both amazing.
Absolutely.
Yes. And the brothers. It was, Chris Oliva, John Oliva. They had Dr. Killdrums. I can't even pronounce his last name. Buckles. Yeah. And Collins, the original bass player.
Keith Collins.
Yes. So they had that kill. There you go.
Love this motherfucker. I'm loving you more every second, brother. I'm telling you.
Why do you think we've been friends since
Mutual
78?
love, brother. Mutual.
But that's another example of these bands. Sirens, Dungeons, Power of the Night. There was like that 3-pack.
Essentials. It's absolutely essentials.
And just like you mentioned before, these bands, they had a little success, and then the big labels came sniffing around and dangling, dollars and do this, and they did. They had another one. What was that after Power of the Night?
Fight for the Rock was
Fight for the Rock.
Yeah.
I like that one a little less, but of course, Hall of the Mountain King was, that probably their biggest commercial success.
As far as commercial goes, but to me, I think Power of the Night was their pinnacle as far as that early era.
I love the Dungeons EP so much.
Yeah, and Dungeons, that's a sick album too.
And I'm not discrediting those chapters. That's why I had to say there's chapters. And after Power of the Night, and then they started changing, but they changed their sound too. And I'm not saying it was better. I'm just saying
definitely did
that
drastic.
The period that we got into them, that's when I fell in love with them. And I remember going to see them and just, oh my God, it was.
But they were epic. Yeah, they were an epic band. Every song was very huge. It was a very, I'm completely name dropping here, but we just had Chris Contos on the show recently. And when we were talking about some of his all-time favorite songs, but Sirens was the first one that popped out of it. He was like, man, Sirens, I hear that from Sabotage, and I'm ready to go berserk still to this day. So
nice. Me too.
You look at that, and as a Sabotage fan, you look at that first one. It's like that first album's like a greatest hit. Sirens, I Believe, Rage, Twisted Little Sister, On the Run.
What a great fucking band, man! What a great fucking band. You know what? Next, I am going to go with good old motherfucking Laz Rocket. Do you remember these guys?
Nice. Just listening to them earlier.
Oakland, California guys.
Okay.
They put out for 84, 85, and then 87. They put out 3 records that I played over and over and over again. 89's Annihilation Principle probably is my favorite. Well, Nothing Sacred in 91 too. Those two might be my 2 favorite. But I got into them on those first 3 records when I was a younger teenager. And man, what a fucking great band. I even remember here, they named their band after, something to do with the Clint Eastwood movie, and I was like, I got to check these guys out, and their entire discography for me is worth having. They put out even one in 2008 that I called Left 4 Dead that I think is a good fucking record, so I've always loved this band, man. They're kind of more power-edged, and they morphed into more of a thrash, riff-driven band, and, by then they were on fire. What a kick-ass fucking bunch of dudes. I love that album, City's Gonna Burn. I mean, that's their first. I love that album. That album's a classic. That was 84, man. I was a 13-year-old kid. I had a cassette of that, and I played it until my until my radio ate it, and then I bought it again, and you know what I mean? Like, what a great fucking... that band was fucking... I had the patches and the shit, all of it, baby.
Awesome. Yep, I saw them in 89, I think it was. I finally got to see them.
On the Annihilation Principle run, then, man. What dude, that record? I still listen to that record all the time.
I do too.
Nothing Sacred all the time. So,
CRYPT, you ever see Laz Rocket live?
I did I want to say, yeah, I think it was 89 too, probably, Annihilation Principle. And as a matter of fact, it was at the Capitol Center, and I believe it was with fucking Flotsam and Jetsam.
Nice.
Another band who was this close to being on my list. I feel like they did kind of reach a little bit more success, but I almost had them on my list, Flotsam and Jetsam. But yeah, man. And as a matter of fact, I think it was them, Flotsam and Jetsam, and Sacred Reich. So what a tour!
Nice.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah,
yeah.
Good shit.
Bill, what do you got? What's number 3 on your list?
All right, number 3 is Sacred Rite, Rite, not Reich.
No shit. Okay.
And they were more of a traditional band, traditional heavy metal. They were out of Honolulu, Hawaii, which was very unusual. And they put out 3 awesome records, if you ask me. I got into them on their 3rd record, which is Nothing Sacred. It came out in 1986. But before that, they had Sacred Rite in 1984, The Ritual in 1985. And definitely traditional metal. It's a lot of killer guitars, mid-range vocals. Dude's a great singer, but he's not really singing his ass off like Obsession singer, let's say. But killer guitar trade-offs and good catchy tunes that you can remember. They had a lot of memorable tunes. And I still listen to them to this day. Never did get to see them because they didn't tour to my knowledge, but I guess they were pretty big back in Hawaii. And then they actually moved to Oklahoma City, of all places, in 1987. And I guess they tried their thing at Fame, and it fizzled out for them. So,
Interesting.
I'm ordering right now based on your recommendation because this is one I'm not familiar with, honestly.
All right, well, if you're going to do that, they have 2 CDs called Rites of Passage Volumes 1 and 2, and it has all their stuff on there that you need, all the stuff that's essential. Now, they did put another record out in the 2000s. I can't remember the name of it. Unfortunately, their drummer had passed away, and they took some of his stuff and they sampled it. So it's kind of a weird record, to be honest with you. But the Rites of Passage, I would, Volumes 1 and 2, definitely get those. Good stuff.
Doing it. Own it.
Right on.
Hey, listeners, listen, if you enjoy what we're doing here, do us a favor and get up to the Metal Mayhem RLC website, join our community by signing up for the newsletter, and leave us a review or a subscribe to the pod if you're listening on Apple Podcasts. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I'm going to get my 3rd entry in, and I'm going to the Great White North. You're listening to Metal Mayhem ROC with an exclusive Metal-O-Mania crossover edition. Okay, like I promised, I'm going to get my 3rd cut in now, and we're going to the Great White North. There's a lot of bands from Canada that have had major success. You got your Rush, you got your Triumph, Christ, even in the grunge era, you had Alanis Morissette. But, when the 80s came, you had Razor, you had Anvil, you had Kraken.
Infernal Majesty.
You had. What's that?
Infernal Majesty. I had to throw them in there, but go ahead.
Okay. But, my entry here is Exciter. Now, here's another example of a band that fucking came out of nowhere, had some success, and then, not any faults of theirs, sort of gets screwed over. So, they get the name from the old Judas Priest song, And, you know, they sent in a demo to Mike Varney over at Shrapnel, and they had that track World War III that made one of those, what was it? The U.S. Metal Volume 2. So then they end up, they do their first album, Heavy Metal Maniac, and it's fucking killer. And then they get scooped up by Megaforce and Johnny Z, and they come out with Violence and Force. And like I said with the the Sabotage, those albums are just like every track is a great track. And CRYPT, we were very fortunate up here in Rochester to see all these bands come through. We had a local heavy metal outlet called the Penny Arcade, and a local record shop proprietor used to sponsor these Sunday afternoon shows. And Bill and I and, the Penfield Poser Death Squad, it was our high school, and like all us metalheads, we'd go down there on a Sunday. And one of the first shows that Ron Stein from the Lakeshore Record Exchange promoted was Exciter. And Bill could attest to this. Dude, there we are.
Sick show.
15-year-olds up there, and it was the first chance we had to smell that fake dry ice. Yeah. And these guys just come out opening with Under Attack, and it was just awesome. CRYPT, what do you know about Exciter, and what's your experience with this band?
Unfortunately, not a band I ever caught live, which I wish I would have. But I love them though, man. That was another one where every year they were reliable when I was young, man. Literally every single year they put out a record for a stretch there that was a phenomenal, welcome addition to the soundtrack of my teenage years, my rebellion break shit years, as it were. Heavy Metal Maniac, Violence and Force, Long Live the Loud, 83, 84, 85, 86. Not enough people love Unveiling the Wicked. I think it's great. I like Exciter, a consistent kick-ass band for me in that perfect sweet spot of my teenage years too, man. We're doing this list. Not only are we talking about the bands that we feel like we're one level maybe or two levels below where they should have been, but a huge part of this list for this panel, and forgive me if I'm speaking for you guys too, but is the nostalgic angle. You know what I mean? Let's be honest. This is the stuff that it means a lot to you and to me because it's with the shit that, was a part of the soundtrack to our life through those years, man. And right. Exciter is a staple, absolute staple.
All right, CRYPT 4. What do you got?
Let's go with fucking. I know I have so many on my list. You know what? Let's stay a little doomy, man. Let's go with Pentagram. I don't feel like Pentagram was a band that gets. I don't feel like they still get enough love for what they did. You know what I mean? They're a band that fucking. And of course, I'm talking about the Washington D.C. version, the doom metal band Pentagram. I know there's a few bands out there, but 85's self-titled, 87's Day of Reckoning, and even 93's Relentless. Those are hallmark records in my life, man. And I'm surprised even now, actually, I'll talk to people that are unfamiliar with this band, and I don't understand how that's possible. They're right in that line of kind of the trouble that I talked about earlier, maybe in that St. Vitus kind of Witchfinder General, flavor, if you will. But, man, an underappreciated, underloved band for me.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't know why, but they definitely flew under the radar. I mean, diehards, of course, are into them, but they're definitely not a household name.
Yeah, and they should be, man. In my opinion, they should. For what Metallica is to thrash, I very much feel like Pentagram plays a role in the doom metal game.
For sure, absolutely.
They were formed in '71. They were on the cusp of that. They're that perfect bridge between the doomy Black Sabbathy sound to the more aggressive kind of a doom stuff, you know what I mean? So it's such a hallmark band for me. So CRYPT, let me ask you, why do you think they didn't elevate to that next level? Was it? I think that some people got their doom from Sabbath and they were good with that. Honestly, I don't know. It was kind of that next level of doom before people were ready for it, I guess. Because now I feel like had they come out 10 years later, they would have hit like a bomb.
What was their timeline? When was the first one? When was the last significant one?
The self-titled came out in '85, and for me, that was a hallmark record. That I put on that record the first time I ever had it as a 14-year-old teenager even, and listened to it over and over and over again, and it was a whole new sound. It was so thoroughly, they embraced that down tone to D and fucking kind of pummeled you with it, man. It was, and let's not discount the fact that I would be remiss in my duties as the whole story here if I didn't include the fact that I was becoming a huge stoner at the time. So if you factor in my love for Volga, it hit right into my love for Pentagram, and it was a perfect merging, if you will. So,
Bill, what do you got for your fourth?
Well, I've had Nasty Savage. We both picked that together, but I'll just throw off the top of my head Violence. The album Eternal Nightmare is a thrash classic and a totally essential. I believe in thrash metal. That's the top of the peak for me.
Now they're part of that Frisco scene, right?
Yes,
sir.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
They're a little late in the game as far as the Frisco scene. That album came out in '88, but
they're the second wave with the Testament.
Yes,
and what's the second wave of Frisco thrashers?
Yeah, Forbidden,
Testament, fucking maybe even Heathen would probably be a part of that. I guess. Yeah. We had Sean Killian from Violence on my show a couple of years
Sadist.
ago. And the new Sadist, by the way. But anyway, but Sean Killian went to high school with Cliff Burton. He was telling us stories about smoking joints with Cliff Burton in high school and shit. That was awesome, man. That was
on.
That was a big land for. I just sat there smiling like a dipshit through the whole interview, like, but because I agree, man. Violence is a great band. Eternal Nightmare for me is on my Mount Rushmore of thrash metal records, man. What a great release.
Me too. The second one, it came out in
Oppressing the
1990.
Masses or
Oppressing
whatever,
the
yeah.
Masses. Good
Right.
album, but it was a totally different sound.
Yeah, definitely. The Eternal had almost a punk delivery and a thrash metal casing, you know?
Yes. Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
I loved it. Phobophobia and Serial Killer. Oh, good shit, man.
Yep.
Wow, you guys are you're going deep into the bench. My fourth, Widowmaker.
Nice.
Going into going into 92.
Yeah.
But when Twisted Sister finally, called it a day, this is a fun story. Dee, hung around for a minute, put another band together called Desperado. And they got signed to Elektra. They did the album 2 weeks before it was about to release. They pulled the plug on it. And he's like, what the fuck? So he had to wait like a year for some, besides they pulled the plug on the project, he had to wait a year to do anything. So he put another band together, Widowmaker, with Al Petrelli, Joe Franco on drums from the Good Rats, Mark Russell, who was an English guy, that comes into play. And they released the debut, Blood and Bullets. And at the time, it was 92, and me and a buddy of mine, we just got into it. We had a chance to see the tour a couple times. And that album, the Blood and Bullets, some of the best songs on that was music that they wrote for Desperado with Bernie Torme, Irish guitarist and songwriter. And, those songs, and then that was the partnership. But that first one, Blood and Bullets, are you guys familiar with it?
Oh, yeah,
Crypt,
yes, sir.
Familiar with
In fact, their sophomore release, Stand By for Pain, I think was a fantastic record too, man. Yeah, good stuff. I'm a huge fan of Dee Snider all my life, man. When he went in there and embarrassed them assholes in Congress, I decided on that day, everything this man does, I will follow and I will support it.
Some of those songs on that, The Widowmaker, Snot-Nosed Kid, Blood and Bullets, Blue for You, Calling for You. These, the guitar work was great, but Stand By for Pain, they made a conscious effort to try to get a little grungier or the sound. And Bill, what's your experience with Widowmaker?
I had that first album on cassette, and unfortunately, it got eaten, and I never replaced it. So we're talking. The only time I hear them is on your radio show, and I keep saying to myself, "Damn it, I got to get that album again," because it's such an awesome album. And I got to ask you, where did you see them? Because I don't remember them touring at all.
I saw them a couple times in Rochester. Saw them at 3Ds. We saw them at Pineapple Jack's.
How the hell did I miss those shows, man?
I don't know. But it was so grassroots that I remember at these shows, they had little postcards that they asked their fans to hype their friends and get into. Yeah, and I grabbed the whole stack of them. And we'd go down and we'd go to the bar, and I'd have my buddies fill it out.
The original Instagram.
Yeah. And, I saw them a couple times, and to this day, love it.
I must have been
Blood and
not
Bullets,
living in Rochester.
Stand
I
By
would have
for
definitely
Pain.
went to those shows.
Yeah,
I must have
shit, man.
already moved to Tampa or something.
Well, it was 92.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't
Good
know
stuff.
I don't know how I missed that.
Blood and Bullets, baby.
You know what? We got a little time left. I had a couple. I'm going to just go down my list. Quick honorable mentions.
Yeah, I'd like to throw a few out too.
Honorable mentions. I had Anvil. Another Canadian band,
and one of the greatest documentaries too. By the way, I love that documentary about them. But go ahead.
Oh, yeah. They had another one of those triplets, Hard and Heavy, Metal on Metal, Forged in Fire. And, and then they've been consistently just releasing stuff. You ever notice each one of their albums have 3 words in it?
Yes. No, not until you said so, but now I did.
That's the thing. And
fuck yeah.
And another band that I was really into had a great another 2-3 albums was Fastway.
I have them on my honorable mention list.
Yeah, Fast Eddie Clark, Pete Way. The ironic thing was Pete Way never, when it was time to record the album, he was still under contract with Chrysalis. But then, so he couldn't do the album. But then it was weird because like 3 months later, he starts Wasted. And it's like, in any case, so they had their nice run. The
Wasted was good too, but.
Yeah, then the follow-up and then the Trick or Treat. But
one of my favorite soundtracks ever, even still,
The Trick or Treat.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So CRYPT, you got a couple quick honorable mentions.
Yeah, let me throw a few out there. Grim Reaper. Does everybody remember Grim Reaper with See You and and all that stuff, man?
Yep.
Discharge. Remember Raven, the United Kingdom version of Raven. I was a big fan of them. Demon, Steeler. Nobody mentioned Steeler. I thought maybe we'd have some Armored Saint, Omen, Trauma, Warlock. Don't forget Warlock, Carnivore, and let's say Cryptic Slaughter. Okay, sorry. And
Nice.
Toxic. Don't forget the thrash band Toxic with the K.
Yeah.
Also, another great band.
Yeah.
They're back together, I guess, right?
Yeah. Oh, remember Rigor Mortis, man? What a great band.
Yeah.
Texas.
Yeah.
And Raven was on my honorable. And the thing with the Raven was, the first string with Wacko Hunter, Wiped Out, All for One. But they were... Yeah, but they were another one. Those major labels dangling that dollar, and then next thing you know, they have spiked hair.
Yeah.
But then, the last couple, everyone, Extermination, and then Mike Heller came into the band with Metal City, and then the new one. It was good stuff. Bill, what would you have? I have a piece of fun fact news I want to share with you guys, but what's some honorables you have?
Well, Raven was definitely one of them, and then Crocus, they're another band. I love their early Crocus stuff until Headhunter, and after that they had some okay tunes, but they got that carrot dangled and they went for the
hair metal.
Yeah, pretty much. But those early albums, even though they sounded like AC/DC, I freaking love that stuff.
Me too, man.
That's some good stuff.
They famously had a war with Dee Snider and all that. They had a big thing. Yeah,
I never knew that until a few years ago. I read this whole article about it, and it kind of sucks that they haven't buried the hatchet. I guess the singer tried to with Dee, but he wasn't having it. So.
Right.
And Dee's wife Suzette made some stage clothes, and no one paid for it. And
I guess
he will back out of anything that they're involved with. He won't do it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I like not even playing shows. I read that. Yeah. And that fun fact that it involves Dee and Widowmaker. Their touring bass player for back on that Stand By for Pain was Freddie Volano, who happens to be the new bass player of the Rods, another band. And the Rods just released a new album, Rattle the Cage.
Dang.
So
it's all incestuous, isn't it?
The 40 years, it all intertwines, and look at it. And this is a perfect example of what our community has to offer. Bill and I have been friends since 78. You and I connected a couple years ago. You guys met 23 seconds ago.
That's right.
So we
friends
all
for
could
life,
share.
bro.
That's right.
We could all share the same story. And I'm going to tell you a quick story how Bill and I became friends. It was 6th grade. And where we went to school, we had different elementary schools. So Bill came from one, I came from another. Walked into our homeroom, and there's Bill, and he has an Ace Frehley folder. And I'm like, dude. He goes, yeah. And
that's it.
Not much has changed since 1978.
That's right.
We're still sitting around here.
That's awesome.
So,
fuck yeah.
Well, hey, CRYPT, I want to thank you for taking the time to come here again. The platform Metal-O-Mania. CRYPT, where can people find your product? When are you on, and what's the game plan for 2024?
We're pushing hard on the YouTube thing. We used to be on StreamSpot. We've left that behind. We're trying to really put our energies into YouTube. So please sub us over there, you guys. We appreciate it. We're trying to be an every other week show right now with the amount of editing that I do. It takes a little time to create it, but I have some great interviews lined up. We have Atrophy coming on. We have Crazy Mad Rod coming on. I got Massacre coming on later in the year. Kyle Thomas from X Orders hopefully coming on soon. So we got some really good interviews in store for everybody. So
that's great stuff. And besides having a top YouTube podcast that Chris does, he's also a 2-time host of the Tennessee Metal Festival that our very own Zach Moonshine and Raven Moonshine do. Just quickly tell us your involvement with that, and are you going to be back in 2024?
I'm so glad you brought that up. In fact, I've just this week been officially asked to return for the 3rd Tennessee Metal Devastation Festival. I love Zach and Raven. Please show them all the love and support. What a fantastic group of people doing great things for our scene. Basically, I love it. I get to MC the bands. I go up there and tell my vulgar, dirty jokes all day. I introduce all the bands all day. It's a blast, man. It's really becoming a tradition that's growing, and this will be our 3rd one this year. I believe it's October 5th. Please look it up and try to get out there, man. I'd love to shake hands with as many metal fans as we can get out there. Come on out and party with me.
Definitely. And you could find Bill. He's part of our Metal Mayhem ROC team. He's involved with the history of metal and shows like this, the Rock and Roll Detention. So, again, everyone, get up to metalmayhemroc.com. Join our community by signing up for the newsletter. Like and subscribe and support all of these platforms. Metal Devastation Radio, Metal Mayhem ROC, Metalomania, and do yourself a favor. Get out, buy some product, and always, always, always remember to keep it heady. I'm the Vernomatic. This is Metal Mayhem ROC.
Metal for life.
Thank you for listening to Metal Mayhem ROC. Check out our website at metalmayhemroc.com for information on podcasts, archives, links to all our live radio shows, and all sorts of info. Please like, follow, and share with everyone, even your non-metal friends. And always remember to keep it heavy.